Hello YouTube, I'm Michael Morgan and this is Retro Book Reviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing As A Man Thinketh by James Allen. But before we get into a review, if you like what you see and hear, make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, hit that like button, hit that bell to get notified of future videos, and I encourage you to share this video with 10 million of your closest friends. If you have any suggestions for books you'd like for me to review, just drop a comment below, or you can email us at retrobookreviews@gmail.com. Okay, the book As a Man Thinketh was first published in 1902 and is often considered a classic of the self-help genre. Now, James Allen's premise is very simple, but it's very profound, and it will be a challenge to apply. Allen's premise is, if you want to change your life, you have to change your thoughts. And in fact, the title, As a Man Thinketh, comes from the first part of Proverbs 23:7 from the King James Bible, which states, "For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Now, Allen starts off his book with this statement. The aphorism, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," not only embraces the whole of a man's being, but is so comprehensive to reach out to every condition and circumstance of his life. A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of his thoughts. Allen goes on to describe, I'm just going to paraphrase this part here, that a godly or good character is a result of continuous right thinking, but a bestial or low character is the result of continuous ignoble or vulgar thinking. Now Allen's statements, they do align here with the Bible, specifically Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, which states, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue and if there be any praise, think on these things." Now let's contrast that with Ephesians 5:31, which states, "Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice." Now, in case you didn't know, the New Testament was originally written in ancient Greek, and in the Greek line of thought, what Paul is talking about here, where he goes from talking about bitterness to malice, that is a progression of thought. When you're bitter, that's something that eats away. It eats away at you at first. So bitterness can be very corrosive to your spirit, to your thinking. Just as you have the relationship didn't work out, you didn't get the promotion at work. Maybe your life is not at the place where you thought it would be by now. And those thoughts, if you allow it, it will eat away at you. It will eat away at you. And if left unchecked, those thoughts will lead you to a point of malice where you think that this person is, it is the reason why your life turned out the way it did. And then you get to a point of malice, which is when you intentionally try to harm somebody. And this, and it is never worth it to get to that point. Do not let your thoughts get to that point. If you believe that you're getting to that point, I encourage you to please seek professional or spiritual help in this matter. Talk to your pastor. Talk to a mental health professional. Talk to your family doctor. You could start there if you want. I encourage you, please, just reach out to somebody, because if you allow that bitterness and unforgiveness to go unchecked in your heart, you're not doing yourself any favors, and that's not going to bring you any satisfaction. If you think by harming somebody else is going to make you feel better, it is not. It is not. That would be like you drinking poison expecting somebody else to be sick. So please, don't let your thoughts get to that point. Now, one important principle throughout As a Man Thinketh is that Allen reminds us of the law of cause and effect. If you do something, there's going to be an effect. If I'm hammering a nail through a wall and I miss the nail and hit my thumb, the effect is my thumb's going to hurt. It's going to be sore. Too, that's an oversimplification of cause and effect, but it is something that we don't spend a lot of time on because our thoughts and our actions have consequences. But whether we accept it or not, they do as a universal law. Yeah, because what we think shapes our character, and also what we think shapes our responses to our circumstances. And Alan uses the analogy of a gardener. We must tend to our thoughts like how a gardener attends to a garden. If you ever maintained a garden, or maybe you just had a yard that you just kept the grass cut, you understand the importance of dealing with weeds. You have to get rid of the weeds, because if you let the weeds go unchecked, the weeds will choke out everything good that's in the garden. Your crops aren't going to be as plentiful. Your flowers aren't going to grow, and your grass it's going to get choked out by the weeds as well. So, and the weeds can spread quickly if we don't get a hold of them at the right time. And so it's of paramount importance that we get rid of the weeds or the bad thoughts from the garden of our mind. And Alan states, by pursuing this process of weeding out the bad thoughts, a man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life. He also reveals within himself the laws of thought and understands with ever increasing accuracy how the thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of his character, circumstances, and destiny. And two, I'm a firm believer that a large part of how our lives turn out is a result of the choices that we made. And often our choices come from our thoughts. Our decisions have consequences. And if you ever made an emotional decision, or you made just a rash decision, you certainly know that you pay a price for that one way or another down the line. And if we refuse to take responsibility for our actions, we will never change our circumstances. And I think of just a large part of society today, we have too many people who bellyache and whine and moan about how their life circumstances aren't their fault. They look for some kind of boogeyman to blame for their lot in life. Meanwhile, they continue to play the victim, and they think everyone else has to deal with their problems. And if you were to take responsibility for your thoughts and circumstances and make better choices, you will see your life begin to change for the better. And Alan states that man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. But when he realizes that he is a creative power and that he may command the hidden soil and seeds of his being out of which circumstances grow, then he becomes the rightful master of himself. So your circumstances should not stop you. Just because things have turned out one way doesn't mean they have to stay that way. And once again, if you want to change your thoughts, change your life, you have to change your thoughts. Your circumstances will begin to change. In fact, this is another quote from James Allen. Circumstance does not make the man, it reveals him to himself. So this is based on your response, how you respond to a certain situation. it just it reveals the inner character. Are you willing to stand up and fight? Do you retreat? Do you grab? Do you reach for a bottle or some kind of substance? Yeah. Do you just want to run and hide? Do you just escape in some other form and not face the problem? And if you're not willing to do the work, your circumstances will not change. I mean, that's just a fact. If you're somebody, let's say you want to get in better shape, there is work that you have to do in that circumstance. You have to make better food choices. You have to exercise. You have to find ways to deal with your stress. To get more sleep. It's not just going to happen magically. There's no Tinkerbell's not going to wave her wand and boom, you all of a sudden you're in the best shape of your life. No, you got to work at it. You have to work at it, and that's what you have to do. To change your thoughts, you have to put into work. You have to start thinking on the truth. You have to start thinking what is right, what is good, what is virtuous. You got to root out the weeds of your life, whatever they may be. Or if you want to get ahead financially, you have to learn how to manage your money better. You have to stop frivolous spending, not rack up crazy amounts of debt. And two, you just have to stick to a budget. And it's the same way. Once we start changing our thoughts, we have to stick to it. Because if we don't stick to it, we're going to be right back in the same mess, and we might even be in a worse mess. Okay, and I found this to be a powerful statement from Alan. I'll close this particular section with this statement. A man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile, and commences to search for the hidden justice which regulates his life, and as adapts his mind to that regulating factor, he ceases to accuse others as the cause of his condition and builds himself up in strong and noble thoughts. It's so, we often think, well, here in the United States, you turn 18, you're considered to be a legal adult. And we think once we reach that spot on the calendar, we're an adult. But you may not reach maturity as soon as you turn 18. Of course, there's a phrase, being young and dumb. But that's when we reach that level of maturity, is that when we look at our life and our circumstances and how things turned out, it's when we stop blaming other people. You stop blaming these outside forces, these imaginary boogeymen that you think are just secretly running and ruining your life. No, you have to look hard in the mirror. You have to be willing to change. In fact, also according to Alan, instead of kicking against our circumstances, we can use our circumstances as a measure of progress of how far that we've come. There's times that I look back over my life, and there's still things that I'm working to improve on in my life. I'm a lot better than I was before. I've learned to handle problems better when I realized I shouldn't have made that choice. I started making better choices. Yeah, it's also an important balance not to condemn yourself for where you're at in life, but to realize it's not too late to change it. And maybe the thought of making a drastic change just overwhelms you. And I understand, maybe you try to say, hey, I tried changing my life. It didn't work. I just made things a bigger mess. As I said, I failed many times in my life. I've made plenty of mistakes. And I used to dwell on my failures, but I began to learn from my mistakes. Sometimes you make choices based on the information you have at the time. If you had what you know, if you knew what you knew now, you wouldn't have done those things. But the important thing is, that we have to change. We have to change our thoughts about this, about our current circumstances, about the past circumstances, so we can have better future circumstances. And this is also another powerful statement from Allen. He says, "He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. His every thought is allied with power, and difficulties are bravely met and wisely overcome." So if you can overcome your doubt, you can overcome your fear. Now, failure is not going to be an obstacle for you. It's because we know we have control over our thoughts. And of course, yes, there are certain things in your life that you have no control over, that you never had control over. As I mentioned in my review of Epictetus's The Art of Living, I encourage you to go back and watch that video when it talks about what's in our control and not in our control. But I can honestly go on to quote passage after passage of this of As a Man Thinketh. But I won't spoil it for you. I highly, highly encourage you to get a copy of this. This is just such a deep and rich book. I mean, and to me, to call this a self-help book is, it doesn't quite do it justice, because there's no, develop these 8 habits, do these 12 steps, do these 10 steps, do these. It's not about there's just one premise throughout, and the effect of how our thinking affects every aspect of our life. So as I said, I encourage you to add this to your personal library and read it, reread it again. Just let this information sink in. And once again, I thank you for joining me today, and God bless you.